Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams. My panelists tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King, Steelers Nation South, Rollo Coffin. When we are honored to have back Jockey, 18 million in winnings, 1,000 career wins, something like that. We got Dale Cordova back, and we are going to be debating the greatest bull. PBR fans, you're going to want to check this one out. And we are joined by special guests from the American Bucking Bull Inc. and the Bucking Stock News. We want to welcome Cal Lippincott here. Thank you so much, Cal, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Excellent. Afterwards, we're going to have a few questions for him about some of the stuff that he's doing, but we are going to jump in tonight's debate, and we're going to start with Brian.
All right, so I've got Mossy Oak Mudslinger. Mudslinger, he was born and raised on the Rockin' P Ranch in Ardmore, Oklahoma, back in 1997. The ranch is owned by Dylan and H.D. Page, who own one of the biggest stock contractors in the business. He was originally named Washita Mudslinger, but in 2001, he acquired a corporate sponsorship, the leading camouflage brand, and became Mossy Oak Mudslinger. But the impressive sponsorship was not his only accomplishment. Mudslinger, he bucked from 2001 to 2006, a total of 94 times. Of those 94, riders only completed rides on him 27 times. And of those 27, only 15 were round winners. He ended up his career with an average bull score of 45.83. A perfect bull score is 50, so he averaged just over 4 points below that mark. Mudslinger, he spent 6 years on the PBR tour, and he made the finals every single year. He was runner-up in 2004, 2005 for the World Champion Bull title, and in 2006, he finally won it all. And while he was doing it, he elevated his owners. The D&H Cattle Company, they got to elite status. He helped them, he helped bring them the Stock Contractor of the Year award 5 consecutive years. Now, Greg Potter was the final cowboy to ride Mudslinger, and he had this to say about the legendary bull. This is one of the greatest bulls of all time. Everybody likes him. Everybody wants to draw him. From the time he runs into the chutes, he gives you a fair shot every time. But you make a mistake, you're on the ground. The brand of honor is awarded each year to a bull for superlative performance in the PBR. The PBR recognizes that there are 2 great athletes every ride, obviously the rider and the bull. And in 2017, Mossy Oak Mudslinger was given this high honor. So we have a bull here who elevated his company. He averaged near perfect scores, he was a champion, and he won the PBR's highest honor. So that's Mossy Oak Mudslinger.
So, Kyle, I'm going to come to you here. My question for you is, when we were putting this list together, I kind of gave you a choice here between Mossy Oak and our honorable mention tonight, which is Little Yellow Jacket. You chose Mossy Oak. What made you choose him over Yellow Jacket, and what are your thoughts on him?
Probably because he's a little more new school than Yellow Jacket was. Yellow Jacket was a PRCA Bull of the Year and had sired some bulls, but Mudslinger was a little more, the guys rode Mudslinger a lot more, and they were always in the high scores. They're always 90. Mike Lee secured his PBR world title on the back of Mudslinger in 2004. And like he was saying about Mudslinger kind of elevating D&H Cattle Company, D&H, like back then they were buying a bunch of bulls, and I don't want to say Mudslinger was the first, but Mudslinger was one of the first for them that they raised, that they bred and raised, that took them to that level, and then they took it and ran with it in the breeding programs and offering his genetics in their sales. And he's still in the magazines, they're bred to buck sales today. So that bull did really kind of not jumpstart them, but took them to another level. And I think just because that bull, like you said, he was only rode 20-something times, but for a bull that would be considered one of the greatest, I mean, that's quite a bit that they rode him, but it was always memorable rides.
Brian, I don't know if I'm going to vote for your bull tonight, but he gets best name, guaranteed. Nice.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to Dale.
I have Bodacious. This is the world's most dangerous bull of all time. he was just absolute mean. And at 1,900 pounds, born in 1988, he's a mix, a Charolais and a Brahma mix. And at 3, he didn't even show much promise, as a rodeo bull. And so his owner didn't even bother to name him. He just went by the tag number that was given to him, which was J31. After several times at the small rodeos, one day a young bull rider, he got hung up on the dismount or got bucked off. He got hung up, and something snapped in that bull, and he went from unimpressive to being too much to handle for them smaller rodeos. So he was sold to another rancher who finally gave him his name, Bodacious. And once he matured, he became unrideable by all the top bull riders in the world. And at the 93 World Finals, Tuff Hedeman, 4-time world champion at the time, he rode Bodacious for the 8-second ride, which was described at the time for a near perfect ride. And so after that, at the 95 World Finals, he drew him again. Bodacious, he got even. He bucked forward so hard with all his might, jerked Tuff down, and then he just threw his head up and threw his head back so hard that it just shattered all the bones in Tuff's head. And it was a bad one. And then he stayed on, and he got hit again in the head. So it took 13 and a half hours just to reconstruct his face, 5 titanium plates. And so 7 weeks later, the next rider, he wore a hockey mask thinking that would protect him from that bull. And it didn't work. He used the same tactics, threw his head up, pulled him down, threw his head up, and he fractured that rider's left eye socket, just shattered it. And so at the 95 National Finals, his owner, he just retired him. He says, I just don't want this horse. This bull is getting so mean and has, his tactics are unbelievable. He didn't want a rider to get killed, so he retired the bull. And but out of 135 rides, there's only 8 that ever rode him, and he was a top bull of the National Finals Rodeo in 92, 94, 95. He was a PRCA Bull of the Year, 94, 95, inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame in 99. As a legend, he retired, and as the greatest bull to ever buck, and definitely the most dangerous bull in history.
So, Kyle, he mentioned the rivalry with Tuff there. I actually represented Tuff in our greatest bull rider show. Cody Custer, everybody, check that out in the archives. But what are your thoughts on Bodacious? He was retired early. In your opinion, was he too dangerous?
I mean, I don't know about too early. Like he was pretty good at hurting people, and he was around for long enough. He was PRCA Bull of the Year, PBR Bull of the Year at the very beginning. So I mean, he was around long enough to acquire some accolades. I really think the rivalry was just like any sports rivalry, whatever the broadcasters make it, right? And then Tuff was at the top of his game. Bodacious was at the top of his game. And Bodacious, I mean, we've all seen the video, the pictures of what happened. And then he draws him again at the NFR and has to step off the back of the buck and shoots, and he don't even leave the buck and shoots with him. So I think and he had rode him before also. So I think there was some big two greats heavyweight matchup. I think Tuff, give him a fair go, but I think Bodacious, even the punches as well.
Absolutely. And just because you're the expert here, how long does a bull's career normally last?
Well, we're talking about totally different time frames from then to now, right? So a bull now is not going to last near as long at the PBR level, just because they're bucked so much at an early age in the competition system. Back then, there was none of that. There was no dummies. There was no competitions. I mean, the bull may not start getting bucked till he's 4 or 5 years old. So when they don't start till then, I mean, a bull could go till he was 12, 13, 14 years old. There was a few bulls that went long time, and they got bucked a bunch. But so, I mean, really, though, I would say kind of an average, maybe back then, was 5 or 6 years.
Excellent. Let's move on to our next bull. Go ahead, Rollo.
So I just want to put this out there. He's called the Michael Jordan of bulls. So just remember that. He was born and raised. Bushwhacker was born and raised in Marysville, California. He was sired by Reindeer Dippin, who was the PBR Bull of the Year in 2004, and Lady Luck. And he was born on June 1st, 2006. And in 2008, he was moved to Stephenville, Texas, where Julio Moreno would become his owner. Everyone who follows bull riding knows of the PBR record of 42 consecutive buck-offs. It started in 2009 with Tiago Pajuto and ended with J.B. Mauney's epic ride in August 2013, where he rode Bushwhacker to an epic 95.25 points. It was one of those moments where a great bull and a great bull rider come together for an epic moment. There were only 3 bull riders to ride Bushwhacker the full 8 seconds. His last ride would be at the 2014 PBR World Finals, where he would get a standing ovation before coming out of the gate and bucking off Mike Lee in 2.13 seconds. Like I said before, he holds the record for most consecutive buck-offs with 42. He bucked off 64 of 66 riders on the Premier Series and 84 of 87 on all levels of competition. He won 3 world championships in 2011, 2013, and 2014, and he's only one of 3 to be world champion bulls 3 times. He earned over $500,000 in his career. The PBR co-founder, Cody Lambert, compared him to Seabiscuit and Secretariat in what Bushwhacker meant to the PBR. In 2016, PBR named him to his brand of honor and was named the Michael Jordan of bulls. He was put on the Bull Riding Hall of Fame in 2020, and in 2023, PBR named him the #1 bull in PBR history.
So, Kyle, he is the most recent bull here tonight. Is he Michael Jordan?
I'd say with where we're at, because in the grand scheme of things, his career didn't end all that long ago, right? So I would say you're probably, that's not a far off comparison to what he accomplished in the bull riding world. He was an ABBI Classic World Champion, partially where some of that earnings came from. And he was the one thing you gotta remember, like, just, I'm not trying to compare too early, but you got the mudslinger that them guys like to get on, and if they didn't stub their toe, they was going to ride him. Where you got Bushwhacker, he wasn't very easy to track. He didn't do the same thing twice. Like, Bushwhacker was not a bull that was desired by anybody. So to me, you kind of weigh that out. Like, the bull rider is half the battle, right? Like, you'd think that they'd like to get on one, but the PBR is the best of the best. He obviously was, because they didn't ride him hardly 3 times in his entire career.
So we're going to move on to our final bull, and then I'm just going to say this: if you think you're Michael Jordan, then you're really LeBron James. You're number 2, because I've got Michael Jordan here, okay? Because Dillinger, I am repping him. He is the first ever back-to-back world champion. So I got that accolade that nobody else here has tonight. Even though they all have him, he's the first. So I got that. Born in 1995. Sadly, he did pass away in 2004. Now Dillinger, he was a looker. I mean, black body with a white head. Like, you knew him when you saw him. So I thought that was pretty cool. And he was owned by Harrington Cattle Company. Now, he won his world championships in 2000, 2001. Then in 2012, he gets the PBR Brand of Honor Award that Brian had talked about earlier. So he has that in his bag as well. He is still to this day, ranked #1 in the Pro Bull Stats historical rankings. So maybe not in the PBR rankings, but he is on the Pro Bull Stats historical rankings. And he is known for always being a great ride and only having scored under 45 points 2 times in his great career. So that's some impressive numbers there. Now his career ended sadly due to injury, but he has some excellent numbers here. His buck rate is 85.11%. Power rating at 91.15. That is the best of all time. That's why he is number one on the stat sheets there. And of course, he is in the Pro Bowl Stats Hall of Fame. What made him great to me is at 1,800 pounds. So 1,800 pounds, he's a big bull. He still had speed and agility, which is why he had 3 of the top 10 scores in PBR World Finals history. So that is my bull. He had, a bit of a rivalry with, Chris Shivers. Yep. He had a rivalry with him going on. So Chris scored 96.5 on him at a championship tournament there. So very impressive bull. Your thoughts on Dillinger?
First, I want to say you mentioned Chris Shivers. I think what made that so good was Dillinger was so big, and Chris Shivers looked like a midget person on Dillinger. Just he was a little guy, anyways, and it always looked cool when Shivers had him. And yeah, he was 95, 96, 94 multiple times. I think what makes Dillinger special is what you just said. He was the first to do all that stuff. I really think, I hate to really sound like this or be this guy, but I think times have changed. I think in today's world, even in the era of the bulls that we're talking about, I think Dillinger would still be there. But I don't just because he was the first kind of makes it a little hard for me to get on board as the GOAT. But nonetheless, I know I'm friends with the family that raised Dillinger. He had a hair trigger in a buck and shoot. I don't know if you guys have seen that video. He kind of reared up in there for the gate open, and there was a big wreck there. So like you always had to be on your toes. He always made a big victory lap around the arena, a big 1,800-pound bull, full steam running around. So I think he's special, and a very good bull, and especially the best in his time. I'll say that.
Okay, so it doesn't sound like he's going to get your vote tonight. Let's move into our vote. Guys cannot pick your own. Brian, who you taking?
I mean, they're all very impressive for sure. I'm going to go with Bushwhacker though. I think I'm most impressed with his resume there that Rollo shared.
Okay, Dale.
I guess I'm going to have to go with Bushwhacker. I like him.
Okay. Rollo.
Bodacious broke the face mask of somebody, so
Yeah, for me, I'm a little biased as well on this one towards Bodacious, just because I was a big Tough fan, and I just love that rivalry, and I remember when I was repping Tough, I reeled off a bunch of stats about Bodacious in that representation, just because I was such a fan of his. So I'm going Bodacious. Cal,
So
we
it
come
sounds
to you.
like
You
I'm
can
the
pick any of the
tiebreaker.
4. That's right. You got the pressure on you, or you can, if you don't want to vote for one of those 2, you can vote for whatever one you want. So
I will make my vote, but then I do want to say something after that, leading into something just for the bull world and rodeo. My vote's going to have to go to Bushwhacker in this conversation as well. But I do want to say Bodacious is by far the most famous bull of all time. I mean, there's people that don't know what rodeo really is, but they know what Bodacious is. They know who Bodacious is, what he did. There was toys. I've got as a souvenir, it's got a big picture of him, Bodacious chili powder. Like where that even came from, I don't even know how I got that. But like there was all kinds of things. Like you think about it today, like you don't see that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? There's not items named after bucking bulls like that. And so I do think with the accolades in the time, I think Bushwhacker is probably the greatest. But I will say Bodacious did a lot for the sport of bull riding and rodeo, just for his accolades and what he accomplished, but all the making the world aware of who he was.
just to put that into a little perspective, since Rollo brought up the basketball analogy, I'll bring up a hockey one, and I'll take it the same direction. Gretzky is known worldwide. He made the game bigger, but most of the panelists that are on here tonight would say Lemieux was the better player, but people don't know who that is. So,
Right.
that's how I take it. So, but nice job, guys. Let's move into our Q&A. Let's see. Bodacious Bushwhacker got the win. That's Rollo. But I am going to give Dale first question, and then Rollo, I'll let you go second. Brian, me.
Yeah, Kyle, being into horse racing, of course, them paths, they intersect quite a bit. Like I grew up in the same era as, on the track with Tuff, Hedeman, Ty Murray, Cody Lambert. Cody's dad is a horse trainer. I rode for him, and Ty Murray, his dad was a starter at the gates, and Tuff, his dad worked in the jocks room, and so everybody knows pretty much the animals are just unbelievably dangerous and powerful. And so in that respect, I so much respect the bull riders, probably the most dangerous profession there is in the world. And but also as a bullfighter, I watch some of your stuff too. God, to risk your life. I mean, you honestly risk your life. You're like the CIA of bull riding, because you get on and cover and protect them riders and get them loose. I mean, it's just amazing. So, what made you even just think about getting into that part of the world, the bullfighting?
So I got to tell you the little bit of the backstory to make the bullfighting thing make sense. So I didn't grow up in this world at all. My parents weren't in this. We grew up on 3 acres in a small subdivision or whatever. And I remember going through a cabinet one day. I couldn't have been 4 or 5 years old, and I found the movie 8 Seconds in that cabinet. And I was infatuated with rodeo. And I bet I wore out 3 8-second VHS tapes when I was a kid, just over and over and over and over. That's what I wanted to do. So anyway, I rode sheep and calves and steers and junior rodeoed for as long as I can remember. And I was probably 13 or 14, and I broke my collarbone. And when I did that, things kind of changed a little bit. I wouldn't so really want to get back on or whatever, but I couldn't get away from it. And I remember watching the bull ridings on TV and stuff, and I thought, you know what, I think I could do that, bullfighting. And so I went to a bullfighting school in 2009, and it really wasn't meant to be like the videos you were probably watching are probably a little further in my career, but it was just, I didn't really know it would take me as far as it did. I got to go and do some really cool things in the bullfighting world and make a living at it for 10 years. And I guess my mom always said it's just in your blood. Like she had no idea where this came from. The riding thing kind of threw a curveball at me, and then I started fighting bulls. So I don't want to say I didn't know any different because I didn't grow up in it, but I felt like I had to be involved somehow, and I guess that was my calling and my place at that time.
Yeah, that's it's amazing. The athletic, you have to be so athletic and fit and everything. One more question is, can you dance as good as like Flint Rasmussen? And are you that good of a performer?
I was always there's a reason I'm in the bull business and make a living in that now. And I, like a lot of guys, after they fight bulls, they transition into the barrel man, funny man thing. And I can't dance to save my life. I don't mind talking to people and doing all that, but my wife jokes around with me all the time and says I'm a fun hater. So I don't have I'm not real comical, and the clowning deal would not be a fit for me.
You're an awesome performer, so you did good.
Thank you.
Good, Rollo.
Kyle, recently the PBR moved the premiere time from 8 seconds to 6 seconds. Do you think that changes the way that riders approach the bulls? And do you have to how do you train for that 8 seconds of riding a bull?
You're asking about training to stay on the bull for 8 seconds?
Yeah, and then them moving it to 6 seconds. Does that make it a little bit easier for the rider, or is it you're
Well,
still
I don't
preparing the
think they
same?
went through with that. I think it's still 8 seconds. But yeah, I honestly, I think a lot of guys now train as an athlete more than just say in the bulls that we were just talking about in those eras. Like them guys were just tough and they rode bulls and gritted it out. But I think too, like really you think about it with there's a lot more money on the line in comparative that I believe. And so them guys treat it as a business and they want to be fit. But I don't think there's any way to train. There's a lot of things that people ask me about fighting bulls was, well, what do you do to practice? Like the freestyle bullfighting. Like what do you do to practice? Like how do you there's some things we made like these little wheelbarrows, and this is a little off topic to your bull riding thing. I'm just referencing it more of what I'm familiar with, where you could make rounds and go in circles and work on some juke moves per se, right? But like there's nothing like doing it. Like that's how you practice. So until they get on and they hear the whistle while they're on the bull's back, you get on the drop barrel, a mechanical bull, a stationary. But I promise you, there's nothing like practicing and being fit by doing it.
Kyle, like you mentioned earlier, you were in the bullfighting for 10 years. So as you look back, what would you say was the high point of your career as a rider?
So I'd say the bullfighting deal probably that there's two really close ones, but the one that would stick out to me is getting to fight bulls at the RFD TV's the American. We had to go through a qualifier system to get there, and the American is still going in today for the traditional rodeo events. They don't have bullfighting anymore, but I got to go. I qualified in advance to fight bulls at the American in the freestyle bullfights, the one and only year that they ever had it. In AT&T Stadium, and to look up like when it was your turn, and you look up at the big screen that's 100 yards, and it's your picture and your name up there, and you're fixing to call for a Mexican fighting bull in the middle of 40,000 people. That was definitely one that sticks out to me.
So we've been talking bulls here tonight, and I want to ask you about who I would say is probably the best bull of the last few years here. He's already a multi-time champion. Riding solo, does he have the chance to be one of the all-time greats, maybe to be on this list later on years down the road?
Does he have the ability to be on the list? Yes, but he's got some hoops to jump through. And what I mean by that is not with what the other bulls have accomplished. Riding solo is already, he win 400 and some thousand. He was a Cowgirls Fraternity World Champion. He was a Fraternity World Champion, Classic Reserve World Champion, 2-time PBR Bull of the Year. Like when you look at a resume from the time he was 2 years old to now, he's been to the NFR. Like the bull, what does he have left to do, right? But the thing that's going to keep that bull from being the greatest, and I'm not saying he can't, I'm saying what could keep him is the fact that he is really hard to get out of the buck and shoot clean on. And what I mean by that is they have to tie him in with a halter because he has a short fuse. Sometimes they give a rewrite on him every third trip, right? So in my opinion, like, is he fun to watch? Man, like when riding solos in the buck and shoot, everybody watches. Like you don't know what's fixing to happen when the gate opens, but he does run the risk of everyone gets hyped up for him to hip himself, the guy fall off, and they give a rewrite. So I think that's the only downfall of that bull. He's won, accomplished from the time he was 2 to his age now, everything that you would dream of a bucking bull to be able to do. But he just is a little hard to get out on clean.
So can you just tell everybody about Bucking Stock News and what you do for Bucking Bull Inc.?
Right. So kind of my whole backstory with the whole rodeo bullfighting thing we already covered. And I mentioned that it was in my blood. So I quit fighting bulls. I broke my leg twice, the same leg twice in the same place. And the second time, as I wouldn't say it messed with my head, but it just wasn't as fun anymore as it used to be. So I quit doing that. I've got cows and bulls of my own, and our deal is so small. And when I say our deal, I meaning the bucking bull side of it. That we don't have an ESPN or a sports center. The Cowboy Channel nowadays pushes the guys, the contestants so much. And there's so many stories, like the whole list of stuff that you guys read about those bulls. There's none of that. That's being put to social media, right? So in 2017, I believe, I created Bucking Stock News, and a friend of mine, Thor Smith, he came to me with the idea, and he said, "Man," he said, "you're liked by a lot of people. You talk to a lot of people. I think you could make this work." And he had kind of told me the way that he envisioned it going, right? But he just said, "I don't think I'm the guy to do this." And so I took it and ran with it, and have made it my own. And my main goal is to put everybody's story on a platform. If there's a bull that has a good trip, whether he's a 2-year-old or a bull at the PBR level, I want to find out about him. I want to find out about his mom. I want to find out his story, and I want to present that to everybody. And it's been received really well. We're 8 years into it now, and I think that people appreciate it just because I'm not going to say that they have a voice. Like I write about what I want to, but it makes them feel a sense of accomplishment that something is out there. And I get a lot of gratitude from that, being able to present people's, because like I said, I have cows and bulls myself, and I know how hard it is to raise one to go have some success just for nobody to know about it. You know what I mean? So that was why I started that. And because of that, the lady that was the communication social media director for American Bucking Bull Incorporated, she took another job and the position was available. And really, there's Bucking Stock News for what I just explained, and that's it. So Jay Doherty, the president of the ABBI, called and said, "Listen, so-and-so took another job opportunity. Would you be interested?" And I had to think about it, just for the fact that I was supposed to be the communication social media for the ABBI, which was essentially somewhat of the same content to be presented to the public as Bucking Stock News was. One was my very own, one I was working for somebody, right? So anyways, we kind of hashed out some details, and I took that job, and it's what it is now is completely different than what it was. I think it was meant to be. I do post the stuff on social media for ABBI, design all the event graphics and things of such, the World Finals program. But because I'm so involved and so invested in the bull business, I think the title communications director is what it's more geared towards. When I say it's 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job, if people have a question, hey, I can't figure out how to enter this bull, like our entry system's all online. You pay your entry fees, like everything's online. I can't figure out how to do this. I need help doing it. Like they call, like, and not necessarily because that was really what my job was supposed to be, but they know that I care. They know that I know and that I'm willing to help. And so as far as with the American Bucking Bull Incorporated, that's my job duty, social media, and making sure people are taken care of, and being able to answer their questions.
Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight, Kyle. We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun, and I enjoyed it, and that was really fun to hear the accolades of some of those bulls, and not that they're forgotten, they'll never will be, but to sit here and listen to them one after another. I remember watching those bulls, and that was fun.
Absolutely. I want to thank jockey Dale Cordova for joining us again. Appreciate you coming on, Dale.
Good to be here. It's always good.
Yeah. I'm going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and hope you keep watching in 2025. So everyone have a great night.